a few people now. And I just wanted to say good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for our Lunch and Learn today. We're really excited to hear more about community gardening and different gardening and local gardening projects here in the county. I just wanted to get us started by sharing just a few very, very brief Food Council updates, just of some things going on our calendar. So I'm quickly going to drop our events calendar into the chat, and I just wanted to just make a note of a few things that are coming up next week. Next week on the 12th, we have our food security community call. Our monthly call will be taking place next Monday. On Tuesday, we have a SNAP Ambassador virtual training, which actually sounds really interesting. I'm excited myself to join and learn more about how the SNAP world actually works here in Montgomery County. And then on the 15th, also next week, we'll have our monthly meeting of our increased local food procurement policy priority working group meetings. And all of those links are in the events page that I put into the chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or anyone else from the Food Council staff about any events upcoming. That is it for me for updates because we're running a few minutes behind. So anything else I have, I will I'll put into the follow-up notes and put it in there. And same if there's anything that anyone needs to share out. And if we happen to run out of time and you'd like me to share it, please send it my way and I will be sure to include it in the follow-up notes. With that, I'm gonna pass it over to Daniela, who will be kind of moderating us for today, leading us through here to introduce our first speaker, Kate.
Hello, everyone. I hope that you are having a great day so far. I'm Daniela Hurtado, your council co-chair, and I'm here to introduce our panelist, Kate Medina from Charles Koiner Conservancy. And let me start by saying that Kate is the founder and executive director of the Charles Koiner Conservancy for urban farming and has been in Montgomery County Food Council since 2019. As a Montgomery County native and former science teacher, Kate is passionate about activating underused urban green spaces for food production and hands-on learning. How great is that? Kate holds a bachelor's in biology and a master's in environmental biology from American University. She previously worked for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and was a co-lead of the Green Project Reserve, a set-aside fund of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. She is a adjunct biology professor at Montgomery College and enjoys building tree houses and taking her dog for walks with her husband. Her husband's name is Ricky, and they have 3 kids. Kate, take it away.
Wow, what a great introduction. Thank you very much, Daniela. That was awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know when you guys can see it come up here. All right, and slideshow. How's that? Good. All right, I see the thumbs up, so I'm going to go with it. Hello, everybody. I'm really thrilled to be here with you this afternoon for this Lunch and Learn topic that is near and dear to my heart. As Daniela mentioned, I do work at Koiner Farm, pictured here, alongside, you see our welcome sign for Koiner Farm, and 2 of our most wonderful interns. They're actually sisters, and Francesca worked at the farm for 2 years, and her younger sister will be starting soon. The title of my presentation is A Farm in Every Neighborhood. A little ambitious or visionary, but let's go with it. Okay. So what is the Charles Koiner Conservancy? We are a local land trust operating here in Montgomery County, Maryland, and we're dedicated to protecting and sustaining urban farms. We got started through a true grassroots cause. We just identified a need, and the community came together to solve this problem. It started in 2017. The organization actually got started in 2018, but the community came together in 2017 to support Charles Koiner and his daughter, Lynn Koiner, who owned an acre of land in downtown Silver Spring. And they were paying residential property taxes on all 5 parcels. You literally could put 5 houses on this acre of land. And it was extremely expensive for them to sustain those property taxes. And so the Montgomery County Urban Ag Property Tax Credit was passed to support the Koiners. While that helped the Koiners hold onto their farm, it did nothing to ensure the longevity of the farm beyond the Koiner family. Lynn Koiner herself is 78 years old. Her father, Charlie Koiner, has now passed, and Lynn has no children. She says her only heirs are her cats. And so identifying that problem, then what's going to happen to this very special, now iconic little farm in downtown Silver Spring, should something happen to the Koiners? And so that's when we formed the Conservancy. I will also add that that wasn't Plan A. Plan A was actually to have the Maryland Environmental Trust protect Koiner Farm, but they declined. Too small, out of their jurisdiction, not worth it for them. However, thanks to many of the urban farms in Baltimore who had been lobbying the Maryland Environmental Trust for years to protect urban land as well, the Maryland Environmental Trust Board acted quickly and revised their bylaws to say that if there was a local steward in place, then they would co-hold the protection of a property. And so once we found out about this partner, this local steward that Maryland Environmental Trust was interested in partnering with, that's when we formally formed a land trust. So that's the background there. I'll just add that at our core, what we believe is that land is a resource that should be a common good and serve the needs of an entire neighborhood versus the desires of individuals. And we have very few examples of that, sadly, here in Montgomery County. Most land is privatized, and the public land, the collective sort of community-led ability on that public land is very limited. So I'll just add that. Okay. If you're not familiar with Koiner Farm, it's, as I said, it's right in downtown Silver Spring, as you can see here on the map. The red line there is surrounding the business district of downtown Silver Spring. So we are 1 block from the business district. As I said, it's a full acre of land. We have 2 primary food assistance partners. One is Shepherd's Table. Shepherd's Table has been our nonprofit food assistance partner since 2020. And Fenton Place, which is a Housing Opportunity Commission apartment building with subsidized housing. And they have been a partner, HOC has been a partner since 2022. So Shepherd's Table gets weekly deliveries, and Fenton Place gets weekly deliveries only during peak season. So that's July and August, and I think the first 2 weeks of September. So those actually start, well, I guess it's June. Well, actually, our first deliveries are this Thursday, tomorrow. So I guess it's June now, July and August, as those defined for peak season. And so those are CSA deliveries, whereas Shepherd's Table is just bulk delivery of what we have. Both are great partners. And they're both within a half a mile of Koiner Farm, just talking about the hyper local nature of what we do. Oh, what we do. Really, our work falls into three buckets, as you can see with these colorful squares here. The green square says we protect land for food production. That is our stewardship work. Not only do we maintain the conservation easement at Koiner Farm, we also, I'm just gonna, hold on a second, admit Lori and McCauley, okay. We also help Lynn Koiner certify her urban ag tax credit. So on Koiner Farm, we have multiple layers of protection. We have the conservation easement, we have a long-term lease, and then we also have the tax credit. And so we like to think about layering different types of protections on land to further secure your land tenure. And so the tax credit is interesting because Lynn doesn't actually need to use the tax credit since she has the conservation easement, but she's been very strategic with this. The tax credit, you can get property taxes credited back to you up to 80% of your property taxes for 2 5-year terms. So Lynn is about to enter into her second 5-year term. So that's a total of 10 years. For the conservation easement, you can get your property taxes as well as a portion of your income taxes, which doesn't really apply to Lynn. She doesn't have a ton of income, but someone could, abated for 10 years. So that's 20 years of tax benefits for protecting your land for urban agriculture. And for Lynn, that'll take her through, let's see, she's 86. So till she's like 101. So this is like a great benefit for her to be able to continue living in her house, having these beautiful gardens right outside of her home, and not having to pay residential property taxes on all this land, which just isn't, a huge barrier. And then Lynn has options, even if, at 101, she has other options. Now that she, now that the Charles Koiner Conservancy is here, she could, put her land in trust. In that situation, she wouldn't own the land anymore. With the conservation easement, she still owns her land. Just whoever buys it from her buys it with the understanding that it has to be used for urban farming because we've dissolved those development rights. Okay, so I'm going on and on about taxes. I don't know if this is that interesting to you all. But the other two big buckets are education and engagement of the community. And you can see there sort of the work, some of the programs, outputs that we have under that bucket. And then the yellow box at the bottom, grow and distribute fresh produce, and sort of what are our metrics of how much food are we able to grow at Koiner Farm. As I mentioned, it's a full acre, but our garden plots, like if you put them all together, they comprise a quarter acre. So, we're actively growing on a quarter acre. We grow year round. And then we also have in some of our green space where it's like community gathering space, we'll have like fruit trees and figs and berries and that kind of stuff. So, let's see, is that going to go to my next slide? Hold on a second. It's a little frozen. There it is. If it skips ahead a lot, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So here's just a couple pictures of Koiner Farm. We do family volunteer days twice a year. We have 28 farm markets, on-site farm markets per year. We also do, that's in the top right-hand corner there, our farm market. We also do what we call Third Thursday concerts in the summer. So that's where we have local musicians. We try to select culturally sensitive and relevant musicians to come and play music, and other local artisans. We really like to partner with particularly young entrepreneurs and artists. So for example, we have a Blair high school student who makes candles, and the herbs that he uses in his candles, he gets from Koiner Farm, and then he sells it at Koiner Farm on the third Thursdays. I mentioned our food donations. You can see there at the bottom left picture. Those are boxes getting prepared to go to Shepherd's Table. That's in the winter time. So we do grow year round. And 100% of what we grow in the winter is donated to Shepherd's Table. The other 9 months of the year, which are busy 9 months of the year, then we're selling on site or doing our CSA with Fenton Place. We also do, community engagement activities such as workshops. You can see a workshop there, and one of our speakers actually doing a great job planting garlic. That's Lisa Buttner, planting garlic alongside some interns and some volunteers. I like this picture because a piece of our work that's really important is that intergenerational opportunities for intergenerational collaboration. And so we have that. And then finally, you can see our interns in the bottom right corner. Those are our spring interns who just wrapped up their spring term. Only 2 of them are continuing into the summer term. Okay. Couple other pictures of our interns. I highlight internships because that's probably our most successful education program. Not only does it benefit the farm, the students have, it's incredibly popular. It boomed in population and popularity in 2020 and 2021 when there weren't a lot of educational activities for students, and it's still maintained its popularity since. All right, I have a couple graphs here. I just wanted to share that this year, 2023, in September, the Charles Koiner Conservancy will turn 5 years old. So we got started in September of 2018. And so this is just sort of a quick look back at the numbers of where we've been and where we are now. So, you know, I have a couple different ways of measuring our community engagement here, including number of events and activities, and then of course, number of people. Just focusing on the purple bar, that is number of events. We host about 40 events at Koiner Farm each year. Those are, you know, big gatherings, right? But from March through the end of October, there is something happening at Koiner Farm every single day, whether it's interns there working, field trips, our market, Saturday morning yoga, Sunday evening meditation classes. There's something every single day, plant swaps. So it's pretty busy community space. Our food production over the past 5 years has increased from not even 2,000 pounds of produce to about 8,500 pounds of produce last year. So that's how much we're able to grow on, like I said, an acre, but really actively, we're not like, this isn't your urban farm where we're intensively growing on the full acre. We're also reserving space for community gathering. I mentioned a little bit about layering land protection tools. So we think of having like 5 different layers of protection. The most simple being just providing technical assistance to farms that are trying to get started. We then encourage them to, if they're eligible, apply for the county property tax credit, and also to secure a long-term lease. And we will help community groups achieve both of those aspects, get that long-term lease in place. That's really, we feel that's really, really important for urban gardens. Then if it applies, we can also help hold a conservation easement on the land to preserve it either in perpetuity, as Koiner Farm has done, or it can be a term conservation easement. We just feel that that just says a lot about the community's investment in this land, even if it is a term conservation easement. And then finally, obviously, you can hold the property in trust, and that's probably the strongest form of protection. And then you can see here that just the bars represent just which type of stewardship tool we're using and, you know, how many of them we have. The first line, like up to number 1, is all at Koiner Farm. So you can see in 2018, that was, you know, we only had just the technical assistance going on at Koiner Farm. By 2019, we had the county property tax credit as well as the conservation easement in place. And then by 2021, we all finally also had the long-term lease in place. The green bar with technical assistance, we provide this like awesome little WhatsApp group. So if you're not a member, please let me know. Just WhatsApp me and I'll give you my number at the end. And you can join the Montgomery County Urban Farmers WhatsApp group. Some of you are already on that. So that's just one of the ways we provide technical assistance. We also do, as I mentioned, our workshops. Sometimes they're on the farm, sometimes they're virtual. And then finally, in 2022, just last year, I was happy to announce that now a second urban farm is also accessing Montgomery County's Urban Ag Property Tax Credit, and that's the Urban Sanctuary Farm in Wheaton. And we had been working with them for a few years to try to support them in achieving the minimum requirements for getting that property tax credit, because they're pretty stringent requirements. If you're interested in getting involved with Koiner Farm, here is how we operate, and you can kind of figure out where you might want to fit in. We have a board of directors. We currently have 15 board members. We have 2 full-time directors, that is myself and my co-founder, Hannah Shoulder. We have 2 farm managers. One focuses on plants, one focuses on compost. They're both amazing, and they are the engine of everything that's happening. You know, I would have nothing to sell, nothing to sell without our 2 farm managers and all that they do at Koiner Farm. They're really incredible. We also have 2 farm educators. One focuses on internships and the other focuses on field trips and a little bit on adult education. We have farm crew leaders, and these people are amazing. Mostly, let's see here, I think 2 of them are paid contractors and one is just a volunteer who just wants to do it as a volunteer. But they are all working with us under a contract because they're so important to what we do. And they communicate between the farm managers and just all of the other volunteers. We currently have 24 farm volunteers working at Koiner Farm. They work either Sunday nights, Thursday nights, Thursday mornings, and Friday evenings. So those are our 4 shifts for our volunteers. We, at any given time, we'll have about 9 interns. I would say like 8 to 10. How about that? 8 to 10 interns working, and they work either the Monday, Wednesday shift or the Tuesday, Friday shift. And then we also have what we say our neighborhood liaisons. These are individuals in the community who mostly come from minority or immigrant backgrounds, and they help us connect with all the different pockets of our community. They also expand our language, the number of languages that we have in-house to make sure that we are able to communicate with everyone who wants to either get food, participate in our programs, just come and visit the farm and they're not sure if they're allowed to. So we try to get that information out to everyone who's in downtown Silver Spring. So in total, it's about 60 people during peak season. So like I said, that's March 1 to October 31st. So a 9-month season, and how many hours everyone works. And that equates to around 5 to 8 full-time employees. But again, it's actually divided across 60 people. And that's really our model, to have like a small skeleton staff that's keeping it going, but to encourage as many people as possible to get involved and be participating in their local food system. I'm almost done. The last little bit, as I said, the title is about a farm in every neighborhood. I've focused a lot of my conversation here about Koiner Farm, because that is our flagship farm. But we do have a vision of expanding beyond Koiner Farm. In 2020, our organization established a strategic conservation plan. And so we identified what we value in land and what type of properties we want to protect. And one of the most important was the demographics of that neighborhood where the land is located. And so we are actively looking, particularly in Wheaton, Long Branch, Tacoma Park, possibly White Oak. Those, if we could get, 2 to 3 additional farms, we would really have a nice network that could then, those farms could serve as models of what you can do. And we'd have a big enough staff to support other small farms. So that's the vision. This picture here is of a neighborhood in Wheaton. That is Loiterman Middle School that you see. I don't know if you can see my cursor. That's Loiterman Middle School right there. This is, let's see, I think that's Edison Tech High School. This is Wheaton High School, and this is Weller Road Elementary School. So you can see that, like, look at all of these schools right around here. So that is a place that we probably want to be given our education purpose. Not only that, if you take a look at USDA's low income and low food access map, you can see here that, again, the yellow circle is Loiterman Middle School. It is within, just do that, okay. It is within a low income and low food access track based on the 2020 census data. And so that's where we want to be establishing the farms. It also has extremely accessible. Wheaton Metro is right here, or excuse me, Glenmont Metro is right here in the purple circle. And Weller Road this is Georgia Avenue over here to the right and Connecticut Avenue on the left. So anyways, I just bring this up because we're pretty excited about the prospect of potentially establishing a second urban farm at Loiterman Middle School in partnership with Montgomery County Public Schools. And I've included the link here to USDA's Food Access Research Atlas. If you're not familiar with it, I do recommend checking it out. And last thing I'm going to recommend, let's see, go to the next slide. A little slow. Do I need to? Okay, there we go. If you haven't watched this video, it's called Koiner Plot. Now that I've giving you a little background on Koiner Farm. I recommend it. You can find it on Vimeo. Here's the link. You can also find it on our website. And it's just a pretty inspirational little video. I thought about showing a clip of it today, but then decided not to. All right. So I hope I didn't go too long. I kind of did. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you, Kate, for such a wonderful, detailed presentation. As Jack announced it on the chat box, we're going to be holding questions until the end. So please take notes of your questions for Lisa. You'll have time to ask them. And if it's something that you cannot hold, just please drop your questions in the chat. So our next panelist is Lisa Buttner from Community Health and Empowerment through Education and Research. Lisa is a lifelong gardener who has dedicated much of the last decade to garden-based education and empowerment, assisting City Blossoms with garden classes at Centronia Bilingual Preschool in Langley Park between 2013 and 2015, and more extensively through hands-on lessons for hundreds of students at Rolling Terrace Elementary School in Long Branch. This was between 2013 and 2018, where she chaired the PTA's garden committee and helped establish a wellness committee. That's a lot of work, Lisa. So believing strongly that all students deserve access to fresh, healthy, and delicious school food, she served on the advisory board of Real Food for Kids Montgomery between 2014 and 2016. In 2021, under a Food Council garden grant to, I'm hoping that I'm saying this correctly, CHEER, which is the acronym for Community Health and Empowerment through Education and Research, in partnership with Audubon Naturalist Society, Lisa led the formation of the Long Branch Gardeners, Jardineras, and Jardinero. That's my French. Excuse it if it's not pronounced correctly. This was a group with members of the Conexo Community Leaders Group. Lisa brings a Spanish fluency and cultural sensitivity to her work, having traveled extensively worldwide and spent 17 years between 1990 and 2007, not 2007, working on rural applications for photovoltaic and other renewable energy systems in southern Mexico and Central America. Lisa holds a BA in engineering and a master's in environmental studies from Brown University and studied Chinese for 2 summers at Middlebury College. Lisa loves to camp, hike, bike, and cook with her family. And after a hiatus, she hopes to resume backyard beekeeping. And she also speaks 3 languages. How amazing is that? Lisa, take it over, please.
Oh my goodness, Diana, I think I probably should have trimmed that bio a bit. Anyway, thank you so much. Yes, my name is Lisa Buttner, and I am the Director of Neighborhood Gardening Program at CHEER. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Okay, I hope you can see that. Oops, hold on a second. I'm on the wrong slide. So let's get back to the beginning here. There we go. Okay, I hope you can see that. So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today and for your interest in gardening and farming and the urban environment. I could listen to Kate all day. I love hearing about Koiner. I'm just always so incredibly impressed with everything that's been achieved in a short period of time. So I am going to, let's see. I'm going to talk very briefly about the background of our gardening program at CHEER. And I think I need to be reasonably quick so we can leave time for the third speaker and have some questions. So I might abbreviate a few things and I can expound later if others have questions. Our program in gardening is neighborhood-based. We're in our 3rd year. As Diana mentioned, we got our start with a small grant from the Food Council that was just a 6-month grant from January through June of 2021. So those of you who are gardeners can imagine it was rather challenging to both get a group up and running and actually grow something, but we did. And we are growing with people who don't have access to their own spaces. A lot of them live in apartments. Some of them have balconies, many of them do not. Those who don't, some of them have sunny windows and some do not. It's a multicultural group of people. We've had as many as probably up to 30 people who've been involved at any given time. But we have sort of a core group that's been going since 2021. And our goal is to connect people, build relationships between property owners and people who do not have access to their own spaces. So we're basically growing in front and backyards around my neighborhood, actually. And the reason for that is that we originally intended to work in a school garden because it was fairly large in New Hampshire State's elementary school, and parents helped to build that garden space. But we didn't ultimately get access, so we started in my front yard, and then we moved on from there. I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so I think I need to figure out how to make my slides change. Are you seeing a change in slides? Because I'm not. Let's see.
Oh, it's still on the first one.
Yeah. So why?
Mine was slow too, Lisa. I don't know why.
Really? I've just stopped the share. I'm going to try again. It's just not moving at all. I've never had this trouble before. Any suggestions? It would be helpful to see the next slide. I guess I could exit and go to the next slide. And while we're doing that,
Here, let me see if this works, Lisa. I'm going to just try it off of the one you sent me.
okay. And while Jack is trying that, I just wanted to point out that those images on the first slide, you want to go back now just for a second,
Yep.
Jack?
Yep.
That the flowers on the left, the yellow flowers, I had never seen before. That is from the chipilín plant. It's an herbaceous plant, and maybe some of you have had tamales de chipilín or other foods that incorporate the chipilín leaves in their in the meal, in the dish. But it's something that we decided to grow, the group decided to grow in the first year, and we were so thrilled. And I was stunned by the beauty of the flowers at the end of the season, which is in the fall. Turns out that we can't quite get that plant to the point of producing seeds in this climate, which is a shame. So we can't, we rely on a local farmer for our seedlings. And the other plants are also foods that are plants that are highly valued in the group that I work with. Okay, next. Jack, next slide, please. So I guess I won't spend a lot of time here, but the point is really that as we grow food together, we're building community, we're building relationships between people who didn't necessarily, most likely didn't know each other previously. We also have a cross-generational aspect to it. Kids have been involved. We've had grandparents involved, and we've had participants from East and West Africa, from the US, Mexico, Central and South America. And it's been incredible how in the garden, when you start talking about food and thinking about what you want to grow, how many similarities there are across the continents in terms of foods that we consume, but we may do it in very different ways. So it's been such a delight to partake of those exchanges and the joy that comes from sharing like that. Next, please. So in our first year, as I said, we started in my front yard, which is on the left of your screen. And it's not big, you can see that, but we were able to grow an incredible amount there the first season. And in the middle picture, that is on the street parallel to mine, 1 block away, where those small 4x4 boxes pre-existed, but were not being used. And these neighbors kindly said, well, if you build us a deer fence, you're happy, I mean, you're welcome to use the space. So that was a real gift, and we continue to garden that space. We always offer to share the produce with the property owners and in fact ask them what they would like to be grown in the garden. Some have basically said, you know what, this garden is for the community. You guys decide, you know, you can have all the produce, or maybe they others participate with us in the planning and the planting and the maintaining and the harvesting as well. So it was our very first year in 2021 under the first garden grant with the Food Council that we built that fence and got that garden going. The one on the right is yet another block away. It's in a backyard. And as you can see, it's an in-ground garden, and we continue to use that. You can see in this photo in the way back, we've built a bamboo structure with some wire over the top for growing squash and other cucumbers and things that to take advantage of vertical space because these are small gardens, as you can see. We also planted that one starting in the fall of 2021. Okay, next. So here are the remaining spaces that we are currently working in. Number 4 is actually, there were 3 boxes that were probably built or set up 10 years ago or so, and they'd been full of weeds for a long time after the family moved abroad and rented out their house. So there's been a series of renters there. And so we approached the family and we said, looks like you're not using those boxes. Would you mind if we did? And they said, oh, please do. So that was that situation. And as you can see, we decided to put up some temporary fencing because we discovered how much deer really love sweet potato leaves. Number 5 was the first example of a neighbor who decided to go full on climate victory gardens and convert part of his very beautifully manicured lawn to a productive vegetable garden. He's been maintaining his landscape for 20 or 30 years. So has lots of growing experience, but not with edibles. So it's been a delight working with him because he's really wanted to be involved to learn more about edibles. So we, as a group, built the fence, designed and built the fence, and he and his wife built the extra herb box outside it. And you can see garlic from Tony Sarmiento, who works with Koiner, is on the board, and is the same garlic that we planted over at Koiner, 2 different varieties. And so that was coming up this spring. It was very exciting. Garden number 6, you can see in the top photo, the outline of a garden that was clearly there and used maybe well, a dozen years ago. And it's in front of a house that is a rental as well, but it's got multiple units. And so this is a new situation for us, and it's kind of interesting. We have just recently been granted permission by the overseas land homeowner to double the footprint of this space and to put up a fence and start drip irrigation, which we really want to demonstrate in this plot. And it can serve for a model for the future. Another great quality about this site is that it is pretty much full sun. Right now you see it in early morning, and but because of that, we have the opportunity to grow some things, and we've planted 3 sisters this year in the lower right and put up a temporary fence. Next slide, please. So here are just some images very quickly of how we built the first fence together with all the gardeners and family members and youth. It was quite exciting. And then that design of mine, actually, then we were able to adapt that to the second garden, and we're going to adapt it again to the third place. And of course, other garden preparation, like digging out old weeds, 10 years worth of weeds, is definitely a cooperative effort. Okay, next slide, please. Just a few happy images of harvest. I just want to emphasize that as part of the harvest process, it becomes really, really evident how exciting it is for people who haven't had an opportunity to grow food of their own for many, many years. Pretty much everybody who's been involved, almost everybody who's been involved in this effort has had experience maybe in their own country many years ago growing in their family. And now they can choose what to grow and then taste the food, the fresh produce, the way they say this is the way it's supposed to smell, this is the way it's supposed to taste. That buying it in the market, even some of the specialty foods that you can get at places like Mega Mart and other specialty markets, just don't taste the same when they've been imported. Okay, next slide, please. I wanted to mention that as a result of all of the incredible exchange in the gardens about how do you cook this and how do you cook this, we ended up deciding we really wanted to cook together. It was in the middle of the early days of the pandemic, and so I approached the Crossroads and asked if we could use the Tacoma Park Silver Spring Community Kitchen, and monthly we were cooking with seasonal vegetables and sharing different ways of working with the same foods. So that was really thrilling, and we continued that through 2022. And now we are so thrilled to have Bea Zuluaga, who's been cooking and teaching and focusing on food justice for 30 years, join us weekly in our gardening sessions. And now we're working with her to take traditional recipes and adapt them to make them even more healthy, incorporating more local produce. So Bea has been a very enthusiastic new member of our gardening crew. Next, please. We have several different collaborations that have just been growing and deepening over the last couple of years. In February, we went over to Shepherd's Table and participated in doing winter sewing. You probably all know Debbie Boger, who's there. And last year and this year again, she was generous and shared the seedlings that she received through Harvest Share. She had extras, so we received some from her, and that was wonderful. Down in the left corner, recently we went to the farm at our house and helped weed their carrots. Last November, we visited them for the first time because we had a series of field trips going on to broaden awareness about all of the different farming and gardening models that exist in Montgomery County. A neighbor in Long Branch named Kevin also shares the vision with us and with Kate that we believe that we need more access, more equitable access to growing spaces everywhere in Montgomery County, but particularly in neighborhoods that have been most severely impacted by the pandemic, and for families that really have food insecurity or don't have access to their own spaces. So we would love to have a farm in every neighborhood as well. We're eager to get one in Long Branch, to build one in Long Branch together. We worked with Master Gardeners at the White Oak Youth Garden. Okay, we're going to wrap up now. And down in the bottom, Maye and Yolanda have become neighborhood liaisons for Koiner. And it's Maye's daughter, Francisca, who was one of the first interns a couple years ago that we sent over to Koiner, and it's been exciting to see that family so engaged. And then this is a farmer from Crossroads who is from El Salvador, and he has grown some seedlings for us of specific varieties that are of interest and value to our gardeners. All right, we're almost here. I think it's the last slide. Oh, we've had some visits by the Montgomery County Food Council and by Delegate Lori Charkoudian, champions of equitable local food systems, as you know. And the last slide, please. This is the sign that that is posted at all of our gardens, expressing our gratitude, and also just sharing with the neighborhood our gratitude for the whole neighborhood and the welcome that they've shown to people who are our neighbors. Thank you so much. I appreciate, and I'm sorry if I also took a little bit too much time.
Okay, I think that we have just one more speaker, who is Emma Layman, she's joined us sort of as a last minute addition. We're really grateful. Michelle Nelson, the manager of the Parks Community Parks program, was going to present to us today, but was not able to make it. So Emma has joined us. So we do not have an official.
I do actually.
Oh,
I have a quick one.
Oh,
I got a quick one.
Okay, great.
Emma Layman is the assistant manager for the Community Gardens program. After receiving a bachelor's in environmental studies from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Emma worked on organic produce farms for several years, where she gained experience connecting people with both food and the land. To further explore connections like these, Emma obtained a master's degree in sustainable food systems from the University of Colorado Boulder. She has experience working for farmers markets, companies converting lawns to gardens, and nonprofit farms growing produce for underserved communities. I want to thank Emma so much, and I just want to note we are probably going to run over our 1 o'clock here. If anyone has to go, I totally understand, but if you have questions or whatever, please stick around if you can, and the video will go up tomorrow. But if you have any questions and you have to go, feel free to put them in the chat. Thank you so much, Emma, for joining us last minute.
Yeah, no problem. And hopefully I can keep this a little bit short for everybody. So let's see. Alrighty. So the Montgomery Parks Community Garden Program was started in 2009. So we're coming up on our 15-year anniversary next year. The program includes 14 community gardens and a total of 544 plots. And those plots range in size from gardening tables to raised beds to 200 square feet, 400 square feet, and 625 square feet. And gardeners pay a permit fee of $35 to $85 per year, depending on the size of their plot. All of our gardens are organic, so no synthetic pesticides are allowed, and Parks offers water, wood chips, and compost to gardeners free of charge. So this is just a map showing where the gardens are located throughout the county. So we definitely have a lot in the Silver Spring area, but we're doing more to expand into other areas as well. Some of our goals are program expansion and also offering more things within the program. So we've really been exploring with adding more raised beds and different plot sizes to see what people really want. And when we look for locations for new gardens, we've been trying to look at food insecure areas or just areas where equity has been a concern. We also try to participate in food recovery and reduce food waste. So we have a few partners with that, and we also have a relatively new project going on, and I'll talk about both of those a little bit more later. We also try to work with the planning board to incorporate community gardens into future projects and master plans, that kind of thing. We're interested in education, so we're holding public events this year called Foodie Fridays, where we have speakers from the local food system talk about what they're doing and just kind of what's going on in their spaces. And we also share a quarterly newsletter with gardeners that has gardening resources and just information for them to learn more about gardening. And then finally, accessibility is one of our goals. So like I mentioned earlier, we're exploring different types of plots, and we're trying to engage with populations that have a diverse range of needs. So this is just an example of one of our traditional garden styles. So the plots are in ground and it's rented to gardeners just kind of as is. They can add raised beds if they'd like. They can put up trellises. And then this is one of our newer gardens. And this garden is all raised beds that are accessible to people in wheelchairs or maybe people who can't bend all the way down. And then this garden is one of our gardens that opened this year, just a few months ago. So we really changed the setup here by having beds that have kind of like a granite border, as well as adding accessible gardening tables. So for produce donations, we partner with Harvest Share. They are a local nonprofit that works with community gardeners to collect unwanted produce, and they'll take it to food assistance providers throughout the county. In 2022, over 3,000 pounds of produce were donated from the community gardens to local food assistance providers. Harvest Share also offers monthly gardening talks, and they give gardeners plants and seeds that will then be used to help donate to Harvest Share. And they work directly with gardeners, usually to schedule harvest days or harvest parties, where they can just work together to collect a lot of great produce. Grown at Pope is a project that the Community Gardens program started in 2020, and it's an 8,000 square foot lot at Pope Farm Nursery outside of Gaithersburg, and it's dedicated to growing food for donation to food assistance providers. And in 2022, we donated over 1,200 pounds of produce just from this lot, and we had over 850 hours of volunteer contribution to make this happen. So we're hoping to kind of grow that project more and continue helping provide fresh produce to food assistance providers. So this is just the contact information for community garden staff. Right now, there are 3 of us, 2 full-time people and 1 part-time. And before this year, it was just Michelle by herself. So it's definitely been good to have a little bit more support. And that is it.
Thank you so much, Emma. I know Daniela has to hop off here in a second as we're pushing up here to 1 o'clock. I want to thank everyone so much again. I know that we had a bit of an issue with Zoom there at the start, so we got a little late. I do want to, if people have time, open up a few minutes for questions. If not, and people have things to go to, I totally understand. We have recorded this, so like I said, we'll be sure to share a follow-up by the end of the week. If it's okay with our speakers, and I'll send you an email. I'm happy to share the slides as well, so people have access to those. And I just want to thank all 3 of you again, and Daniela again for helping out today and joining us for a really, really amazing conversation. I have heard about all of these programs before, but I really am so happy every time I get to hear more. I get to learn something every time, and they all inspire me in my work and all these things to see how the county can improve and what we're doing and the ways that so many people are trying to improve the food system here and how much of a community there is for people who are trying to make a difference. So it is really inspiring to be also just be able to hear from all 3 of you. So I just wanted to say thank you again for all of it, and enjoy your afternoon, anybody. And if anyone has any updates they'd like me to share, any questions that we didn't get time to, feel free to send me a message or an email. And enjoy your afternoon.
I just wanted to say that I see at least 3 food assistance providers on this call, which I think is incredible. And please keep me posted in the future as to what you're thinking about in this area. And if there's anything I can do to help you connect with other organizations or convening space that we need to create around that, I'm happy to hear what great ideas you might be thinking of as a result of these presentations.
Thank you so much, Anne Marie.